USC put together the number one class for 2026 in this cycle. Let's talk about how much it costs to put together that sort of a class. And perhaps, is Lincoln Riley going to be the one to see them through? What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, hit that subscribe button, like this video, answer the question in the comments below. How much do you think it costs for USC to put together the number one class in the 2026 cycle out of high school? I asked that question knowing I'm going to give you an answer here in a little bit, but we've reached the part of the college football era that we live in where signing day is more about footing the math, right? Bringing things to a complete end than it is about celebrating what guy might be still looking to sign or might have signed late. The days of Jordan Birch holding his national letter of intent hostage are gone. And for those of y'all that don't remember that particular incident, please go look it up. It was a lot of fun. And you look at the 2026 rankings, for the most part, there are teams there that you expect to be there. But USC being number one is indicative of a couple of things. One, it's an extremely large class, extremely large. Normally, you get between 22 and 27 commits to a Power 4 school. This is before the transfer portal became big business. And after, we had oversigning limits. If you put together a good class of 25 commits that were mostly 4 stars, couple of 5 stars, fill it in with some 3 stars, you probably had a top 5 recruiting class. And we could count the numbers, right? We could look at just how big the score would be on 247's composite or on threes overall, whatever you want to look at. And it would more or less be the same across the board. Now, because so many programs are looking for early return right here, right now, the emphasis on recruiting out of high school has really gone on the floor because that is a guy that you generally have to develop at least 1 year redshirt or even 3 years before you begin to see a return on him. But I think what USC is making a play for and what I expect other college football programs, especially at the lower divisions, to do is to try to go get those players because there's a market inefficiency now. Now you got a lot of talent up there that might be raw, but you are betting on your ability to develop it quickly, get it on the field, and have it help you go win football games at a lower price, right? I talked with a coach in Division II not too long ago, and he was telling me about a player that he was recruiting that any other year probably ends up at Alabama, right? Probably ends up as a 4-star, 5-star playing year 2. But now, because of the emphasis on the transfer portal, the emphasis on older players, the emphasis on guys that have already started a lot of football, that dude that normally would sign with a number 1, number 2, number 3 recruiting class has fallen all the way down to Division II because of this or that. It's about having the grades that get you into school right away. It's about having the maturity to, go through campus and not make a mess, and being able to play with guys that in some cases are 6 and 7 years older than you right away. That's a tall ask, right? But you're seeing for the players that are man children, that people are willing to go and pay them that much, like Jackson Cantwell, who many believe is the highest paid player in the 2026 cycle, offensive tackle going to Miami, and then you can keep going down the line and see just where guys are coming out. The top tier for 2026, guys I reach out to, general managers, directors, player personnel, what have you, has been around $2 million, which is less than you're going to pay a Power 4 starting quarterback, for instance, but more than you're going to say pay the kicker. And there's still a couple of really high value targets to go get that are being sewn up even now, right? As for SC, one of the things that I find interesting about them is they set the market in 2026 with Riley, and they did it wanting to get a new defensive coordinator. And in Gary Patterson, you might not have a guy who helped you put together this class, but he certainly be the guy that probably looks at players and tells you where they should go. One of my favorite things that Gary Patterson was able to do at Texas Christian was identify guys that were 2 or 3 stars, but had the physical gifts to play at the next level, but perhaps not at the position they played at high school. So he'd find a quarterback or a running back, and he turned that guy into a defensive end or a linebacker or a safety because he saw what he needed to see that guy could do at a high level. If you give Gary Patterson 35 really good players, he's probably going to be able to do the same thing at USC. What's going to be interesting is how many of these guys change positions, if any at all, right? This is me speculating at this point, but this is one of those things that Gary Patterson does well. He might look at your wide receiver and say, I know you want that guy to catch balls, but if you give him to me, he's going to be one hell of a defensive tackle. And I'm like, what? That's probably what the mantra would be, what the response would be. But the mantra with him would be, just trust me on it, right? And then you're going to have to do a lot of that. So how much did USC pay for their 2026 class? Well, according to most, it's between $10 and $12 million for the roster, which ain't bad when you're talking about 35 players. But also, a lot of that money is front loaded. A lot of that money means that it's being paid out before, the contracts were in place before revenue sharing, right? So the thought is freshmen and sophomores are going to get a lot of the money right away. Now, if you are on that staff or even Lincoln Riley, are you going to be the guy to see them all the way through would be a question that many ask, right? But in this day and age of guys hitting the transfer portal, hell, my question is, how many of these guys are even going to be here come December? How many of them hit the portal, right? So are you making a play to go all in with a bunch of freshmen? Probably. You're hoping they can fill in some gaps for you and fill them in quickly. But between Riley and now Patterson, they'll be able to identify the talent that is going to help them win. What I don't know that they're going to be able to do is reach the Big Ten championship, play in the college football playoff. Those are the bars to reach for Lincoln Riley's USC, and they have not met them. But others that they're chasing have, like Texas Tech, who I'm going to, paying $775,000 to Felix Ojo's great dude on measurables and talent. Okay, needing to play, right? Need to go well here. And you can keep doing this. I can keep cherry picking if I want to. Excuse me. But I don't want to. What I want is for these players to go well, and I want for these teams to be competitive. And I want to see if we got another Texas Christian story 2022, Indiana story 2025, Cincinnati story 2021. These are fun. Boise State story 2024, Colorado story 2024. Who is going to have us a couple of players that lead to some really exciting football being played? I know it's February. I know it's also signing day, and it's probably the most low-key signing day of anybody's lifetime since we put this thing into function. But this is still fun. USC, see how much fun you can have.